respected viewers, dear family of dreamers. Have you ever felt that time is quietly slipping through your fingers while somewhere, someone else is building a life you once dreamed of? Have you ever wondered if wealth is not about luck at all, but about invisible habits, small decisions, repeated in silence, shaping a destiny you cannot yet see? Because the truth is, success does not arrive loudly. It whispers, it tests, it waits, and only reveals itself to those who are patient enough to listen. I want to share something deeply personal with you, something that changed the way I see money, life, and even myself. 30 days, just 30 days, I made a decision, not to chase money, but to follow the habits of those who seem to attract it effortlessly, the habits of millionaires. Not the flashy kind, but the quiet builders, the ones who compound wealth the same way a tree grows, slowly, silently, and powerfully. But before those 30 days began, my reality was very different. I remember sitting in a small room, staring at numbers that didn't make sense, bills stacking up, dreams shrinking, and a constant voice in my mind whispering, maybe this isn't meant for you. There is a kind of pain, a silent one, when you want more from life, but don't know how to reach it. When you see others moving ahead, and you feel stuck, frozen between fear and desire. Money, or the lack of it, has a way of shaping your thinking. It teaches you to hesitate, to doubt, to settle, and slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to believe that struggle is your identity. I lived in that mindset for years. I tried shortcuts, quick money ideas, risky decisions, things that promised fast results but delivered nothing but lessons, painful ones. There was a time I invested in something I barely understood, driven by excitement and the fear of missing out. I thought, this is it. This is my breakthrough. But within weeks, everything collapsed, and I was left not just with financial loss, but with something heavier, self-doubt. That moment taught me something no book ever could, that money without wisdom is like building a house on sand. It may rise quickly, but it cannot stand. And yet, even after failure, the real battle wasn't outside, it was inside. The fear of starting again, the hesitation, the voice that says, what if you fail again? That voice is powerful. It keeps millions of people stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief. But then, something shifted. I began observing, not the loud success stories, but the quiet patterns, the habits, the routines of those who had built real wealth over time. And what I found was almost disappointing at first. There was no magic, no secret formula, no overnight miracle, just discipline, patience, consistency, and a deep respect for time. That's when I made a simple decision. For 30 days, I will not try to get rich. I will try to think, act, and live like someone who is already building wealth. The first habit I adopted was waking up with purpose, not rushing into the day, not reacting to chaos, but sitting in silence, even if just for a few minutes, asking myself, what truly matters today? It sounds simple, almost insignificant, but that small pause changed everything, because for the first time, I wasn't living randomly. I was living intentionally. Then came the second habit, tracking. Every single dollar. At first, it felt uncomfortable, almost painful, to see where my money was going, the unnecessary expenses, the impulsive decisions. But awareness is the beginning of control. You cannot grow what you do not measure, and you cannot fix what you refuse to see. Slowly, I began to understand my relationship with money not just as numbers, but as behavior, emotion, and discipline. Then came something even harder: delaying gratification, saying no to things that felt good in the moment, but added no value to my future. And yes, it was uncomfortable, because we live in a world that constantly tells us, you deserve this, buy now, enjoy now. But wealth does not come from what you enjoy today. It comes from what you are willing to sacrifice for tomorrow. I started investing. Not large amounts, but consistently, even when it felt pointless, even when results were invisible. Because I realized, wealth is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in moments of discipline, repeated over time. There were days when nothing seemed to change, when progress felt invisible, when doubt returned quietly. But something inside me had started to grow, a sense of control, a quiet confidence, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, I was no longer drifting, but steering my life with intention. And perhaps the most powerful shift of all was learning to think long-term, not days, not weeks, but years. Because the truth is, most people overestimate what they can achieve in a month and underestimate what they can build in a decade. These habits, they didn't make me rich overnight, but they did something far more valuable. They changed the way I see time, money, and myself. And by the end of those 30 days, something unexpected happened. Not in my bank account, but in my mind. A realization so simple, yet so powerful, that it changed everything. That wealth is not something you chase. It is something you become ready for. Because in those 30 days, the most profound transformation wasn't visible to the world. It was happening quietly, within. I began to notice how differently I reacted to situations. Where I once felt anxiety, I now felt patience. Where I once chased quick wins, I now trusted slow progress. It was as if, for the first time, I understood that money is not emotional, but most of us are. And that is where we lose. You see, the market does not know your fears, your bills, your desires. It simply responds to logic, to time, to consistency. And so, I started training myself to become less reactive and more thoughtful. There were moments when opportunities looked tempting, fast gains, exciting promises, the kind that once pulled me in without hesitation. But this time, I paused. I asked myself, does this align with a long-term vision? Or is this just another emotional decision? That one question saved me from mistakes I would have made without thinking. Because discipline is not just about what you do. It is about what you refuse to do. And slowly, I began to understand the power of saying no. No to distractions. No to unnecessary risks. No to the pressure of keeping up with others. It is not easy, because the world moves fast, and it constantly reminds you of what you don't have. But true wealth grows in silence. Away from comparison, away from noise. There were days when I felt like nothing was working, when results were nowhere to be seen. And this is where most people quit. Not because they are incapable, but because they cannot handle the silence of progress, that phase where you are doing everything right, but there is no reward yet. It tests your faith, your patience, your belief in the process. And I won't lie to you, it tested mine too. There were nights when I questioned everything. Is this even worth it? Will this really make a difference? But then, I reminded myself, trees do not grow overnight, yet we trust that they will. Why, then, do we not trust our own growth? So I stayed consistent, not perfect, but consistent. And there is a quiet power in that, a strength that builds, day by day, decision by decision. I also learned that building wealth often requires invisible sacrifices. Missing out on things others enjoy, choosing growth over comfort, investing when you feel like spending. These sacrifices are rarely seen, rarely appreciated, but they are the foundation of every strong financial future. And over time, something remarkable began to happen, not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily. I started noticing small improvements, a little more savings, better decisions, less stress about money, and most importantly, a growing sense of control. Because true wealth is not just about how much you have. It is about how much control you have over your life. And for the first time, I felt in control. I wasn't reacting to life anymore. I was responding with intention. I wasn't chasing money. I was building a system that attracts it over time, and that shift from chasing to building is everything, because when you chase, you are desperate. But when you build, you are patient, grounded, and focused. I also began to appreciate something deeper. That consistency, even in the absence of results, is a form of quiet confidence. It means you believe, even when there is no evidence yet. It means you trust, even when there is doubt. And that kind of mindset is rare. But it is also incredibly powerful. By the end of those 30 days, I realized I was no longer the same person who started. The fear hadn't disappeared completely. The challenges were still there. But something inside me had become stronger, calmer, more certain. And I understood something that many people spend years trying to learn. That success is not about doing extraordinary things. It is about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well, consistently, over time. And perhaps the most valuable lesson of all was realizing that the journey to wealth is not just external, it is deeply internal. It reshapes your thinking, your habits, your identity. And once that transformation begins, there is no going back, only moving forward, with a quiet certainty that no storm can easily shake. Because what those 30 days truly gave me was not money, but clarity. Clarity about what matters and what doesn't. Clarity about the difference between being busy and being productive. Clarity about the truth that wealth is not created in excitement, but in stillness, in patience, in disciplined repetition. I began to feel a calm confidence, not loud, not arrogant, but grounded. A confidence that comes from knowing you are walking the right path, even if the destination is still far away. And with that came a kind of inner peace I had never experienced before. The constant noise in my mind, the pressure, the urgency to make it fast, it slowly faded away. In its place, there was patience, a deep understanding that time is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally, if you learn how to respect it. I no longer looked at money as something urgent, something I must grab quickly. Instead, I began to see it as something that flows, slowly, steadily, towards those who are prepared. And preparation is a silent process. It happens when no one is watching, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you stay committed, even when there is no applause, no validation. There is something powerful about becoming the kind of person who does not need immediate results to stay consistent, because once you reach that state, nothing can stop you, not delays, not setbacks, not even temporary failures. Because your strength no longer depends on outcomes. It comes from within, and that is where true freedom begins. I also realized that wealth is not just about accumulation, it is about alignment. Alignment between your values, your actions, and your long-term vision. Because if those things are not aligned, no amount of money will ever feel enough. But when they are aligned, even small progress feels meaningful, fulfilling, And that fulfillment is far more powerful than any number in a bank account. As days passed, I found myself becoming more intentional, not just with money, but with life. I started valuing my time differently, protecting my focus, choosing where to invest my energy, because in the end, your life is simply a reflection of where you choose to invest your time, your thoughts, your habits. And once you understand that, everything begins to change. The fear of missing out disappears. The need to compare fades away. And what remains is a clear, steady, focused path. A path that may not look exciting to others, but leads to something far more valuable: stability, growth, and peace. And so, when I look back at those 30 days now, I don't see a challenge or an experiment. I see a turning point. A moment where I stopped waiting for life to change and started changing myself. Because in the end, that is the only thing we truly control. Not the market, not the economy, not the opportunities that come and go, but our habits, our discipline, our mindset. And when those things are aligned, we don't just build wealth. We build a life that feels calm, meaningful, and truly our own. Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, if there is one truth, one quiet, unshakable truth that these 30 days revealed, it is this: wealth is not a destination you arrive at. It is a person you become. It is built slowly, patiently, in the unseen corners of your daily life, in the choices no one applauds, in the discipline no one notices, in the moments where you choose long-term vision over short-term comfort. You see, the world will always try to rush you. It will tell you to move faster, earn quicker, succeed now. But real success, the kind that lasts, does not follow noise. It follows time. And time rewards only those who respect it, those who understand that small actions, repeated daily, carry more power than occasional bursts of effort. That consistency, even when boring, even when invisible, is the true foundation of greatness. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is that you do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be extraordinary. You only need to be willing to show up again and again, with patience, with discipline, with belief. Because the moment you stop chasing quick results and start building lasting habits, everything changes. Your fears begin to lose their grip. Your doubts grow quieter, and in their place, a calm strength begins to rise. A strength that says, I may not be there yet, but I am on my way. And that is enough. Remember this always. Money is a tool, not the purpose. True wealth is not just measured in numbers, but in peace of mind, in freedom of choice, in the ability to live life on your own terms. And that kind of wealth cannot be rushed, cannot be forced. It must be built with care, with intention, with time. So move forward, slowly if you must, but never stop. Trust the process, even when it feels uncertain. Stay consistent, even when it feels difficult. And believe, even when you cannot yet see the results. Because one day, quietly, unexpectedly, you will look back and realize that everything you once struggled for, everything you once feared, has transformed into strength, wisdom, and a life of true abundance. And in that moment, you will understand that it was never just about money. It was about becoming the person who was ready to receive it.